What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another edition of Packers Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. Welcome to the show. We're going to do another one of these episodes where I'm just a little bit off the cuff today. I don't have a ton of notes here. I've watched the game back twice and tortured myself twice, and I thought about doing it a third time this morning just prior to recording this episode, but I just decided I want to have a good day. Not a bad day. So here we are. We're going to recap the Packers' 10-7 loss to the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. Let's get into it. Okay. 10-7 score. The Eagles beat the Packers, and the Packers fall to 5-3-1, which is third place in the NFC North and the 7th seed in the NFC Conference, behind the Bears. Oof, it's even painful to say that. I'm going to keep it, like I said, fairly short, off the cuff. Obviously, this was a really emotional game. It very easily could have gone in another direction and almost did if it weren't for just a few plays here and there. That's about as simple as it goes. Every one of these games that they've lost this season, and we'll get to this at the end, they've lost by just a narrow margin. It's not just a narrow margin in terms of score. It's just a couple of plays that if it goes the other direction, the Packers win that game. And again, not to draw too many parallels to the 2010 Super Bowl season, but it was very similar in that season as well, where, that Lions game, if you guys remember, Rodgers got hurt in that game with a concussion. He didn't play the week after against the Patriots, but, they lost that game. I think it was 7-0 or 7-3, some crazy score like that. I don't have it in front of me. It just feels like they could be it's like 6 plays, guys. It's that simple. We'll go over it at the end. This team could easily be 9-0 right now, or 8-0-1 if you want to take the Cowboys game out of it. We'll talk about reasons to be optimistic. We'll talk about some causes for concern after this game. But let's just talk about the game, at large really quick. So obviously the first half was a total barn burner. One really, really positive play. I talked about it going into this game. We needed to see Adrian Cooper return to the all-pro form that we saw in the early part of the season, and it started early with him. He goes and punches the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hand on a scramble, and guys, that was a very, very, very high-level play. He easily could have just given up on that play. I mean, Jalen Hurts already got the first down. He was going down, but Edge Cooper goes in there and punches the ball out, peanut punches it, and the Packers recover the ball. And if it weren't for Lane Johnson and his effort on that play, I really do think Keyshawn Nixon would have scored on that play. He'd beaten the corner or the receiver, I think it was Devontae Smith, tried to tackle him, and he shrugged him off. And, before we knew it, he was barreling down the sidelines. I'm like, this dude's going to score. And then Lane Johnson goes and makes a big play. And honestly, it probably saved the game for the Eagles. The Eagles had, I think, 62 yards in the first half. The Packers had about 40 yards. Just a brutal nightmare first half for the Green Bay Packer offense. I was kind of speechless. I was just kind of hoping, it's 0-0 going into halftime. You're like, okay, it's a brand new game. The Packers seem to come out in the second half lately and adjust and kill it. Look no further than the Steelers game, even the Cowboys game, right? It just never happened, right? It never happened. And it really felt like whoever was going to score first in this game, that was the one who was going to win. And that's kind of how it went. Going into the second half, the Eagles get the ball. They drive down the field. They get a field goal. And on that drive, there were some really heroic plays. I thought they got a lot of pressure on Jalen on that drive. He just made a couple of really big throws. Saquon had a couple of good runs in that drive as well. They take the lead at 3-0 in the third quarter. The Packers, they finally get a drive going. They go 8 plays for 32 yards, but then they turn the ball over on downs. And I believe, I could be wrong in this, but I think that was the drive that Bo Melton dropped the fourth down pass. And, I saw a lot of people, myself included, in real time. Why is Bo Melton running receiver routes out there? He hasn't played receiver this whole season. No wonder he dropped it. Well, yeah, fair concern, fair question. I don't really have a defense for it, to be honest. He was open on the play. He's made a lot of big plays for you in the past. Look no further than 2023, guys. He was their only receiver that season that even eclipsed 100 yards in a game. So, again, the dude can play. I thought last year Bo Melton was going to be like a really big focal point of the offense. And obviously it just never materialized that way. But, Packers turned over on downs. It felt like, the dam was about to break. The Eagles were going to go down and score. But instead, they fought so damn hard, the defense did, to keep the Packers in it. They forced a 3-and-out from Philly. 3 plays, 1 yard gained. The Packers get the ball back. They finally got into a rhythm on offense. They had, I would say, a pretty good mix of run and pass finally in the game. Josh Jacobs had some room to run. Dontavian Wicks had a couple big catches on that drive, and he was on a snap count, by the way. But I would argue he was a really big positive on offense in this game, just to kind of see him come out and put some good routes together. He's moving really well. Caught the ball, except for the one he didn't, which we'll talk about in a minute. They're driving down. Jordan dials up a beauty on a crosser to Christian Watson. It gets down to the Eagles' 10-yard line. And remember, guys, the Eagles were up 3-0. So the Packers are inside the 10. Josh Jacobs is money between the 10 and the end zone. This would have put the Packers up 7-3 if they scored there. But instead, the play gets called back due to an illegal formation penalty. And guys, even just thinking about it on recording this podcast here on Wednesday morning, I was physically ill over that play. Like, that was the game right there. That was your chance to go grab the momentum, get the home crowd invested in the game, and they were definitely picking it up a little bit at that point. And then to get that penalty and have the play called back, it was absolutely gut-wrenching. I put my head back on a pillow and just sat there in silence and disgust. And it was all because of an illegal formation where Bo Melton covered up the 6th offensive lineman. And again, that is a penalty. I want to be clear. It is a penalty. And it's obviously one that you kind of forget about in the grand scheme. And yeah, there's a lot of weeks where it doesn't even get called because the officials miss it, or it's like kind of borderline. This one wasn't. It was a real penalty. I don't want to dismiss that. And, ultimately on that, you have to blame the coaching a little bit because he should have known on that play, you can't cover up Darian Kennard. He was a 6th offensive lineman. He was an eligible receiver. You can't cover him up. So the Packers punt on that drive, and it just felt like they punted the game away at that point. It was that simple. I thought the game was over. Sure enough, 4 plays later, 80 yards later, the Eagles are up 10-0. And on that drive, it was 4 plays, 80 yards. I think it was the same drive. It could be wrong here, where the Packers had him backed up 3rd and 12, and they hit that shot to Devontae Smith on the sidelines. The only real bad play on Keyshawn Nixon's resume today, or in that game. But they go up 10-0 on that drive on the deep ball to Devontae Smith. And guys, Evan Williams played that well. It was just a really good play by Devontae Smith, and he's a great player. So sometimes that just happens. But 10-0 kind of just felt like the game was over. But the offense goes out. They go 75 yards, score a touchdown, and make it 10-7. There's 6 minutes left at that point. So now, in typical Packers fashion, it happened so many times in 23 and 24, the defense needed to get a stop. And so often, whether it be the Aaron Rodgers days, even the Favre days, like 4th and 26 against the Eagles, for example, in 2003. Still probably it's the first real Packers game that I watched with my dad and my mom, of course. That game ended in what I would call horrific nightmare fashion, right? But we are just conditioned as Packer fans. Okay, the defense needs to get a stop. They won't. But they do. They get a stop. Massive effort pass rush from Micah Parsons on that drive. He kind of forced Jalen Hurts off to the right. Hurts throws it incompletion. The Packers get the ball back. They got to go 90 yards, yeah. But it's 10-7. Field goal ties it. Touchdown wins it. And it really felt like they were getting some momentum back. There was the 3rd and 10. Jordan drops back, delivers an absolute dime over the middle of the field to Christian Watson. And by the way, those middle intermediate crossers, guys, were open all day long. Either Jordan just didn't throw it for whatever reason. He didn't see it. He didn't have time to throw it. There was one play where Josh Jacobs and Malik Heath ran into each other underneath, and it kind of jumbled up the play. But again, just so many plays. They were just inches away from taking over this game. So anyway, they drive down. Then Jordan gets Wicks on a crosser that would have gotten him into field goal range. Puts it right on him. Dontavian Wicks drops it. And yeah, it was a contested catch. You got to say that the Eagles corner made a pretty good play on it. But it just felt like, they hit that. They're in field goal range. I think they still had over 2 minutes left. And they don't get anything because we get to a 4th and 1. The whole stadium knew it was coming. You guys knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The Eagles defense literally knew it was coming. 4th and 1. Matt LaFleur calls a shotgun run play up the middle, and the defense was, by the way, if you guys didn't see this, they were caught on the microphone calling out the damn play before it was run. And they run the play, the Eagles stuff it, and then, that was basically game. Josh Jacobs fumbles on that play. Even if they converted there too, guys, remember, they had an illegal formation on that play. So yeah, if they convert there, they at least get another shot. They would probably have thrown the ball. They probably would have converted it the way that was going. But I don't know how you do that there. And we'll talk about the offense in a minute and Matt LaFleur. But you finally get your pass game going. You're in tempo style. You're moving the ball down the field. You need to get 1 yard. I know what they were trying to do. They said, okay, we've run hurry up. We'll kind of catch the Eagles defense, sleeping a little bit. We're going to run it up the middle in a light box. And it gets blown up. And they were getting blown up in the run game the entire game. So on top of that, you just lose your Pro Bowl center, which we'll talk about. The Eagles knew it was coming. They literally shouted it out on the mic. They were caught on a hot mic saying, yep, inside zone to the right. And it happened. Why not run a play action there? You could have freed somebody up for a touchdown there. They knew it was coming. Maybe Jordan just keeps it. His guys were running routes, by the way. If you look, granted, they probably would have. There just has to be an audible that you can call there. And again, it just felt like, I literally got up and just screamed. Like, I was so pissed. And I barely have a voice today, even 2 days later. Just inexcusable and so disappointing. But Nick Sirianni goes and shows why he's super incompetent. He goes for it on 4th down. The Eagles get the ball back. The Packers did a really good job of stuffing up Saquon Barkley. They had 2 timeouts left. So they were about to get the ball back. I think they got the ball back with like 40 seconds. On their own 40, because the Eagles decided to go for it. They went for it on 4th down. They threw it deep to A.J. Brown. And Carrington Valentine made an awesome play on that, which we'll talk about him in a minute. Considering where the stakes were in that game. And guys, I'd already turned the game off at that point. My Aunt Julie was over watching the game. I turned the game off. My wife and I went to get ice cream at the store to eat away my pain. And I look on Twitter, I scroll when I'm in the car, and I see that McManus, they get the ball back. The Packers do. They set up a field goal, and it shows McManus missing a 64-yard field goal. And before that, Jordan Love has a deep ball to Watson, and guys, it was kind of there. Go back and watch that. I thought it was a decent throw. It would have been a tough catch for Watson. There was a play earlier in the game, too, and I thought Watson was one of the few bright spots in this game, and since he's been back, he's been a really big part of this offense, rightfully so. But there was a play earlier in the game where Jordan threw it deep, and it literally hit Christian Watson's helmet, and he was trying to break up the pass. I'm just like, dude, turn around and catch it. Like, come on. And, he went on Twitter and kind of owned that. Like somebody, I think it was Ike Packers or whatever, that lame Twitter page is. Should Christian Watson have caught this ball? And Watson retweets it, yes, I should have caught it. I'm like, oh, geez. So he knew he should have caught it too. Again, there were just so many plays in this game where it's just like, if even a couple of these went the other way, the Packers could have won this game. Right? So Jordan, again, on that last drive, 40 seconds left, he gets a long completion to Bo Melton. They're in a 64-yard field goal. They kick it. McManus completely shanks it. So he had told the ESPN guys all week that this is the first time he's felt healthy. So again, guys, he kicked for the last 3 weeks, I think, 2 weeks at least. You have your kicker out there not healthy, kicking on game day. Like, I think that should be, I know it's Bisaccia too. I know it is. Because if you guys recall from the 22 season, Amari Rodgers, number 8, if you guys don't remember who he is, the Packers drafted him in the 3rd round in 2021. Him and Aaron Rodgers did not have any sort of chemistry. Rodgers literally said, yeah, he's returning kicks for us now. Didn't say anything nice about him once. And he's returning punts for you, and he's muffing punts left and right. He had dropped like 4 punts that season and ended up getting him cut, by the way. That game in 2022 that I'm talking about, they're literally beating the Giants in London. Amari Rodgers muffs a punt and basically loses him the game. And he still trotted him out there, and Bisaccia was asked about it, and he goes, well, I'm not going to shit can the guy. Like, no, actually, you do shit can the guy. when your guy has been dropping and muffing punts left and right. And ultimately, Goody, I think he just said, yeah, we're going to cut this dude, because if we don't, Bisaccia is going to keep trotting him out there. So you know damn well that the reason McManus, the unhealthy kicker, has been kicking on these game days is because Bisaccia has confidence in his guy. Like, I think Rich Bisaccia is completely incompetent, guys. Their special teams is okay. In case you guys don't know, he is the highest paid special teams coach in the history of the NFL. And for what? Like, what are we getting out of that? Spoiler alert, nothing. Anyway, he shanks it. Game over. Sorrow, pain, whatever. You guys can tell I'm still pissed about it. Let's go into the PFF grades for the game really quick. Let's start with the Packers defense. And if you guys hear the garbage truck outside, I apologize. Packers defense, Barron Sorrell was the number one graded player, 84.8. He only played 7 snaps, but he actually played a really good game. If you guys watched the 7 snaps that he played, it was really, really impressive. Carrington Valentine, 79.4. He had an 81.5 coverage grade in this game. So again, Carrington Valentine, by far their best corner right now. I do ultimately wonder, guys, like I want to see how many games they would have won, but like how different does that Cowboys game look if it's Carrington Valentine out there the whole game? Or, the Browns game, that they didn't beat them on offense. The Browns defense beat the Packers, right? But, Carrington Valentine's been your best corner this whole season. And granted, he did have a 29 tackling grade, but I do think it's because of the one he missed on Saquon. But again, you're not going to expect your guy to make that tackle. No corner is going to make that tackle in the NFL. Maybe 2 guys. I don't know. Probably Jalen Ramsey you might see make that tackle. I don't know. Maybe somebody else out there. But again, insanely good game from Carrington. Had he not had such a bad tackling grade, he would have been the highest graded player on defense by far. He was targeted. We'll get to the numbers later. 5 times, caught 1 for 7 yards. It was a really good game from Valentine. Xavier McKinney was number 3, 67.5. Javon Bullard, number 4, 66.9. And then Micah Parsons ended up being 64.5 in this one. He had a 78.4 pass rush grade, a 45 run defense grade. But again, I didn't see anything on tape where I'm like, yeah, it was Micah's fault on that one, right? I don't want to be dramatic here. But overall, the defense did not score well in this game. The coverage grade across the board for this game was really, really low. Nobody else had above a 62 grade in coverage in this game. And I did see there were a lot of guys open in this game that Jalen just couldn't get to. And look, ultimately that's what the game you're going to play in this defense at this point. Anyway, on offense, let's talk about the offense really quick. Highest graded player on offense for the Packers, Zach Tom, 72.0. Number 2, Rasheed Walker, 71.2. Dontavian Wicks, 69.4. Jordan Love, 68.4. So again, they actually like Jordan Love's game in this one. 72 passing grade, by the way. And then Christian Watson was number 5 with 67.3. That's the PFF grades for this one. Let's talk about the bad news, the bad, whatever you want to call it. The Packers offense is a total and complete mess right now. Jordan Love in this game, he was pressured 40% of the time, which is completely absurd. Yeah, you cannot be effective when that happens. And you saw it a few times in this game, guys. This is the first time this season I actually saw this, by the way, where Jordan's eyes were drifting down because he did not trust his pass protection. He just didn't. Rasheed Walker, he gave up 2 pressures in this game. Aaron Banks gave up 6. 6 pressures, by the way. That's insanely bad. Ajomo and Davis and Carter, they ate his lunch in this entire game. Now, granted, we heard it during the week. He hasn't been super healthy. I have to think that's part of why we're seeing what we're seeing from Aaron Banks. Look, everybody's shitting on this free agent signing, and yeah, he was an overpay for sure, but he's never been like this bad in his career, at least from what I could tell. Again, I don't know what I'm looking at with offensive line. I say that in jest, like I do know what I'm looking at to some degree, but I trust other people. When he was picked up, everybody, especially like Andy Herman on Pack-A-Day, he talked about it. Like there was a stretch last season when he played really well. And you have to think that that's why the Packers paid him, right? He had stretches of playing good football. Bad game in this one. Elton Jenkins gave up no pressures in 14 snaps. Sean Ryan, who came in relief of him, only 1 in 30 snaps. So I thought Sean Ryan played well. Jordan Morgan gave up 4, and he was on Jalen Carter most of the game, by the way. And Jalen Carter ate him up quite a bit in this game. But again, Only 4 pressures. I know it sounds like maybe a lot to some of you, maybe it doesn't to others. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. And Zach Tom gave up 4 as well. Zach Tom's not healthy right now, ultimately. So you're seeing, and he was the highest graded Packer on offense. Again, you'd like to see better from him, but you got to think there's got to be some kind of issue with the injury, right? Ultimately, it felt like they got into a rhythm in the fourth quarter. Philly was starting to send extra guys on pressure looks, and the Packers picked it up well. Outside of the close to their own end zone, that final drive, Nolan Smith ran a stunt that Aaron Banks did not pick up. Maybe it was Sean Ryan didn't pick up. There were some stunts they ran that the Packers offensive line was just like, what? So, again, it was early in the game when they just couldn't figure out how to block these guys, and that was when the Packers needed to be good, was early in the game, right? You get off to a 7-10 lead here, whatever, 10-0 lead, 7-0 lead. This game looks a lot different, right? Keep in mind, too, this offensive line is pretty bewildering, ultimately. This is the same unit that almost shut out the Steelers, who, in my opinion, their defensive line's better than the Eagles. And so you've seen it this season. They've shut down other teams against good pass rushes, right? But this Eagles front, they look improved, man. They look nasty in this game. And you got to tip your cap to the Eagles. They played a really good game on defense. Jalen Phillips, they acquired him this week at the trade deadline for a 3rd-round pick. Homie had 7 pressures, completely blew up some run plays in this game. Jalen Phillips looked insanely good. Insanely good. So your defense held the Super Bowl champions to 10 points after their bye week, after the Eagles just scored 30-plus on the Giants, who we're playing next week, by the way. For the offense to just come out dead is just so disappointing. Let's talk about Matt LaFleur. I got a couple questions this week. I got some egg on my face defending him the way I have. This game proved what I would call that he is in a massive slump. It almost reminds me, the offense overall, but I'll just say LaFleur, it just feels like they're in a baseball slump. And you guys all know, I played baseball in high school. I wasn't very good at it, but, I was serviceable, we'll say. Every hitter, even the good ones, get into these slumps in the season where they go like 5 for 50 over a long period of time, or like 1 out of 35, right, or whatever. It just feels like coaches kind of do the same thing. They get into these stretches in their career where they kind of just get stuck and stagnant. And it kind of just feels at this point like LaFleur just can't get out of his own way. So after the game, he was asked, why did you run so much on early downs? And I think that's a big part of this. We'll talk about it. Felt like every single 1st and 2nd down was a run play. And he said he felt like they threw it a lot. And I'm just like, dude, what did you see? Like, you guys did not run it, or you guys ran it basically the entire game on 1st and 2nd down. That just feels like where we're at with Matt LaFleur right now, guys. And let's talk about him, okay? This is how LaFleur is approaching the game. And this is what I've noticed about him, is he's just so fucking stubborn. Pardon my French. If you got kids around, I apologize. Teams are basically right now, they're playing both safeties back because they know Jordan can beat them over the top. So in Matt's mind, he's basically saying, okay, whenever you see 2 deep safeties, we need to run it. And it's like it's just a setting in his brain that he can't turn off. And that's why, guys, you hear Jordan saying, can, on those early downs. That's him changing the play. He's looking at the safeties. He sees 2 guys back, and he's like, okay, well, 2 safeties back. We got to run it. They're showing 2 deep because they know Matt is going to hand the damn ball off, and they know that it's coming because they do it so damn much. So even if you play both safeties back, which the opposing team is doing, and it's a run play, your defense, your linebackers will attack the run and play the run early on early downs. So defenses are essentially just selling out for the run every single time on early downs, and it's working. Despite how much it's failed the last 2 weeks, LaFleur just keeps calling it, and it blows my damn mind. Josh Jacobs in this game faced a light box, so in other words, 2 safeties back, 2/3 of the time. He only averaged 2.7 yards per carry, which is god-awful, if you guys know the stats. Teams know that the run is coming. It is so obvious, even for a fan like me who doesn't know 1% about football, that LaFleur does. This team cannot run block, as it is, and they certainly can't when they know the defense is coming. They know that the defense knows it's coming, right? Because of your obvious vanilla game plan. So, again, think about it that way, guys. If you knew what the play was going to be every time, the defense. It doesn't matter how many safeties are back. They could play 4 safeties back. If the linebackers are selling out towards the run, they're more than likely going to make that play. And again, when I say it's like a setting in his brain, it's just like, okay, I see 2 safety back. That means I'm going to run. It's like robotic. And it's like, dude, at some point, change it up. So, okay, when the Packers did get into a rhythm in the fourth quarter, they started using play action. They started doing it a bit more on early downs. Jordan used, this is the crazy stat. Jordan averaged 11 yards per play in this game when using play action. So I don't know why the damn coach can't see that it's working. They averaged 4.2 yards per play in the game overall. So almost triple the effectiveness when they ran play action. And when you finally run play action, you get a free, what I would call a 10-yard window between the linebackers and the safeties, because the linebackers are cheating up to play the run because, again, you've been running it so damn much. So it's like a cheat code that somebody gave Matt the cheat code. It's in his pocket, and he's just like, well, no, I got this. It's like out of principle. And it's like, again, this is like it's almost like he's some sort of old school coach that's been doing this for, 40 years, and it just is what it is, and I'm not going to change. It's just like, it's like your stubborn uncle or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just so damn frustrating. And I would call it that. It's simple, and all coaches are stubborn to some degree. And that's what I think about, like, McVay, what he's been doing in LA this year. When they didn't have Puka Nacua, they were running 3 tight end sets. They run so much out of I formation under center. Same with the Seahawks. The Seahawks have a just bananas passing game this year. They can't run the ball. Do I think that Sam Darnold is that much better than Jordan Love? No, I don't. But their offensive coordinator, I think it's Clint Kubiak, he is calling an insanely good game. And Matt can do it too. And it really it wasn't until late that we were even throwing the ball over 10 yards in that game, by the way. Here's another crazy stat for you guys. Jordan's average depth per target, which is basically how far he's throwing past the line of scrimmage, 1.5 yards. So essentially what Matt LaFleur is doing is he's playing for 3rd and short on every single drive. But it's not working because they're either making mistakes and getting into 3rd and longs, which happens a lot. Maybe they're losing yardage on these pass plays because the corners are cheating up and they know they're not throwing it deep. And again, the amount of second down runs in this game, it's just mind-blowing. I don't have the stat in front of me. Just go watch the game. So conservative on 3rd down. So why did we have to get to 3rd down? That's my question. Look at the Steelers game in the second half, guys. Very rarely in that game did the Packers even get into 3rd down because they were moving the ball so effectively on early downs. It's like Matt says, yeah, we're the number 1 team in the NFL at converting 3rd down, so we're just going to set up for 3rd down and we're going to do it. It's like he's just reading a generic stat, and he's like, see how good we are on 3rd down? We'll just get into 3rd and short every time. You don't have to get into 3rd and short. You don't have to get into 3rd down. And when you play that way, you're only going to convert so many 3rd downs. So again, even if you just play that logic, I think at one point they were 60% effective on 3rd down. You're still going to miss 40% of the time. It's just crazy, guys. And here's one more crazy stat for you. Even just reading this is just crazy. The Packers have gotten into opponent territory 12 times the last 2 games, and they've only scored 20 points. That is literally next level, almost improbable how bad it is. So again, when it comes down to, in my opinion, the strength of this offense right now is Jordan's right arm and these wide receivers. And then strategically at the right time, you run Josh Jacobs. It just feels like LaFleur is living in 2024. He's obsessed with the way they played offense last season. And I loved it too, by the way, where Josh Jacobs was getting 5 yards a carry in some games, breaking a bunch of tackles, and then they were just running play action off that. They're just not good run blocking right now. They're just not. And it just seems so obvious to me. And it just goes back to the way LaFleur's brain works. If it's too obvious, he basically just outsmarts himself and does the opposite. That's what it feels like. Now, again, this offense in almost every metric is a top 5 to 10 offense this season. They just had a tough last couple games. So I think there's a world where this gets turned around, and I think if they can even be just a top 12 offense, this can be a dangerous team. But their ceiling, guys, and I said this going into the season, I've said it periodically on this whole season, on this podcast, they have the ceiling to be the best offense in the NFL. Now they have to get healthy at wide receiver. I think they really needed Matthew Golden in this one. They obviously are missing Jaden Reed really, really badly, and more than I expected, by the way. Especially now that Tucker Kraft is out. Jaden Reed is your run after catch guy. They don't have one right now. Sounds like he could be back as early as Thanksgiving. That'd be massive if they had him back at Thanksgiving, right? This offense, though, just has too much talent to be as bad as they've been the last 2 weeks. I really do think they're going to figure it out. I just have to believe that. Now, if they don't figure it out, this team either limps into the playoffs, loses in the first round, or especially if they do it from a bad offensive performance. If they score like 30 and the defense gives up 35 in a playoff game, like you really can't blame Matt on that one. But what if they miss the playoffs? It's not out of the realm of possibility. And if they don't make the playoffs this year, I don't know if Matt LaFleur has a job. And if that's the case, if you guys are rooting for that and you're cheering for that, then you'll get what you wish for, and I'll be right behind you, patting your back, saying, hey, you were right, man. I got no problem admitting I'm wrong. But right now, the people who are saying to fire LaFleur in season, you're essentially just punting on the season at that point. There's no way that you can fire your coach in the middle of the season and be successful. Now, it's happened before. Ironically, it happened with Bisaccia in Vegas. I don't see it happening here. And by the way, guys, Bisaccia is your head coach if they fire Matt LaFleur in season, which is crazy. So we should all be rooting for Matt LaFleur. We should all be rooting for their success. Why do we always have to be right and confirm our priors? Like, why can't we root for the best possible outcome? And then if we miss the playoffs and the offense never figures it out, sure, we all just say, yep, Matt LaFleur deserved to be fired. Anyway, I'm going to talk about good news now. Let's switch over to good news. And it's going to sound like there's all this good news here because I'm going to talk about some pretty stellar performances in this game. But it really is just the biggest positive is on defense, right? Saquon Barkley and Tank Bigsby last week ran for 276 yards against the Giants. And in that same week, Jalen Hurts had a 92 PFF grade. Probably one of the best games he's ever played. They get a bye week in between, so they have a whole extra week to prepare for this Packers defense. The Packers held them under 300 yards and only 10 points. Saquon Barkley in the run game, they did almost nothing in this game. Barkley himself rushed for 2.7 a carry, 60 yards total. Jalen Hurts didn't even hit 200 yards passing. And remember, a good chunk of that was his, he threw for 183 yards, was on that deep ball to Devontae Smith, which again, I thought Evan Williams is in really good coverage there. And it just, your guy made a play. It is what it is. I thought this was a heroic effort on defense against a really, really good offense. The literal Super Bowl champions who've been playing really, really well the last few weeks. Packers defense, I cannot say enough good about how well that went for them. Micah Parsons got 7 pressures in this game. We talked about it going in. We needed him to be a hero in this game. Look, I know he didn't have a sack. He didn't have a TFL, but he impacted the game almost the entire game. The Eagles were double teaming him a lot in this game, and he was still beating it, right? Constantly getting Hurts off his spot where he had to move out of the pocket. And when Jalen Hurts is out of the pocket, he's not good. It's that simple. When he dices people up, it's because he has time. So again, you saw a big difference in this game in terms of getting pressure with 4 versus what you saw last year in week 1 in the playoff game. Jalen Hurts had 20 years to throw in those 2 games. Not this game. The Packers got pressure with 4 consistently. That's why you got Micah Parsons. Devontae Wyatt played well. Colby Wooden played really, really well too. This was an incredible game, though, from Edge Cooper and Quay Walker in the run game. I know there's a couple of pass plays where Quay just didn't get any depth. And that's probably his biggest weakness, right? Is, when they run these pass plays, the linebackers have to get deep fast. They got to take away those in zone coverage. You got to take away the middle of the field. And Quay Walker's biggest weakness is he just doesn't get back there fast enough. So there's always a window there. So I think that's an easy fix for him. He played a really, really good game in this one, especially in the run game. There were so many plays, guys, where Saquon had room and Edgerrin or Quay just came in and completely wrecked shot. Maybe held it to a 1-yard gain. Just go back and watch the game. Watch 56 and watch 7. Massive, massive, massive good thing from them. Evan Williams, again, he played insanely well in this game. Yeah, he had the deep ball caught on him. I thought he was in good position in that game or that play. Just Devontae Smith made a play. He played insanely well in tackling and run defense too. Most impressively though on defense, the cornerbacks. Keyshawn had that PBU where he laid out. It was like a full extension breakup. I think it was on 2nd down. I thought that was impressive from Keyshawn. And then the real star of the day was Carrington Valentine. We talked about it in the PFF grades. He was targeted 5 times. He only allowed 1 catch for 7 yards. He had a PBU, allowed a 38% passer rating. He's the Packers' best corner by far, and he showed it in this game. They got 13 pressures on 26 attempts from Hurts. So again, on 50% of his dropbacks, they got pressure. So that's more than good enough. Again, I don't want to take credit for this. I've heard this being said quite a bit. But the fact that they were able to do this to the Eagles offense, considering they had their whole playbook open. Again, the Packers weren't ahead by 20, which, again, they're going to pass. It's easy to sometimes shut teams down in that way. The Eagles had their whole playbook open. They could run it. They could pass it. They could do trick plays. They didn't have anything in the chamber to get any yards against this defense. Last bit of good news before we wrap it up. The offense is really, really talented, guys. Really, really, really talented. And they were good this season up until the Carolina game. They were top 7 last year. They've been great under Matt's entire tenure. So I just have to believe that they will figure it out. And on the other side, this is a Super Bowl defense. And the fact that this performance went the way it did, it's just hard not to feel somewhat optimistic, right? This is how they looked in week 1 through 3. It kind of felt like they went through their own little slump, especially with how they played against Dallas. This was hopefully the breakout game that they needed. LVN, he'll be back soon for the Minnesota game, probably, if I had to guess. That's going to be a massive add. He's been playing well this season. I've tried to be the bearer of positivity on this podcast. I'm going to try it again here after this one. There are 8 games left. We're officially halfway through the season. The team they are now is not the team they're going to be in January. We just have to hope that that team in January has solved these offensive woes. They continue to grow on defense. Again, guys, I thought that the Eagles, the one way I thought this game would go if the Packers lost was that the Eagles would score 20-plus points. I truly did not see a world where the Packers offense would score 7. So again, just massively surprising in this game. We just have to hope that that January team fixes the offense and continues to grow on defense. All right, we got the Giants this weekend on a short week, probably without Jackson Dart, with an interim head coach. They just fired Brian Daboll, their coach. That can sometimes give teams a spark. The Packers have to be cognizant of that in this one. If we get that same performance from the defense, it does not matter who's playing quarterback for them. It does not matter who's playing. They could have Jerry Rice at receiver. It does not matter. The Giants' offensive line is putrid. The Packers' defense should be able to go out and dominate that team. It sounds like it's going to be Jameis Winston this week, which is a little bit scary. If you guys know, I'm a huge Jameis Winston fan. I think he's kind of a cringe ball in terms of his personality, but the dude is the modern day Brett Favre. Just randomly will go out and throw for 400 yards in a game and then, throw 7 picks in that game. Or maybe he goes out and has a crazy game, like 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Then the next week he's benched. That's how Jameis goes. So you don't want him getting hot in this game, right? But if they can block up that Giants defensive line and they can get to 20, they're going to win this game. Because that Giants defensive line is really good. We'll talk about it when we preview. We'll see how it goes. But if they get to 20, they're going to win. Guys, this is still a good team. The Packers are still a really good team. In their losses, they've given up 39 total points. They are 39 points away from being 9-0. Their losses are by a combined 9 points, which is crazy. So again, just bad luck, a couple of plays that go the other way in these games, and they're 9-0 right now. Go back to the Cleveland game, right? Jordan doesn't throw that interception, forces that Cleveland team to go 90 yards. They punt there. They're not going to go 90 yards to win that game. That's a win right there. Carolina, right? Look at the Carolina game. They went 1 for 5 in the red zone, guys. The league average is 50%. If they even get one more touchdown in that, if they go 2 for 5, they win that game. If they kick a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 8, they win that game. Right? And then you look at this one. This is another perfect example, right? You have a game where essentially that illegal formation penalty, which is literally just a technicality, ruins this game. Dontavian Wicks catches that crosser. This game looks different. So again, my point being, they've just had really bad luck. And there's a stat. Let me see if I can find it really quick, guys, just to kind of read this off. There is a stat that they track called net win probability added. So it basically just counts like dropped picks by the opponent, dropped passes by the opponent, field goals, extra points attempted by opponent, fumble recoveries. So again, if those go in your favor, you essentially have like a net added luck, we'll call it. The Packers are number 30 in the NFL. They have a negative 85.6% net probability added, meaning just some of these key plays just have not gone the Packers' way, right? And this is crazy, right? They have gone 1-3 when they allow 16 points or less. The rest of the NFL this season is 62-5. Again, it just feels like everything that can go wrong in some of these games, it goes wrong. And at some point, this just has to flip around. It just has to, right? It's not like they're going out and getting steamrolled by these teams. They're going out and narrowly losing by just idiot mistakes. They're idiot mistakes away from being 9-0. And then look at the Cowboys game, right? They didn't lose that game, but, assume LaFleur is a bit more, aggressive on that overtime drive. They score a touchdown there. They were inches from scoring one with 1 second, by the way. They don't block that extra point, Dallas, and they don't return it for a 2-point conversion. That's a win right there. And again, I know they've had some plays go their way, right? Even in this game, right? That pass interference call against Evan Williams, horrible call. The illegal formation we talked about ad nauseum. Look at the false start that wasn't called on the Eagles. And then the Packers have a false start that they called the drive after on 4th down. Again, it just feels like something has to turn around. And it's not even just like them playing better. Just the luck has to go in the other direction, right? Again, though, it's getting late quick. I can't keep coming on this show after every loss or every narrow win and say, well, they still have time, because at some point, time's going to run out, guys. Through 9 games in 2023, just a reminder, the Packers were 3-6. Looked like they were toast. They were cooked. They were not going to make the playoffs. They were 2-5 at one point. They traded away Rasul Douglas. They sold at the deadline. But what happened? They got hot against the Steelers. They beat the Chargers, Chiefs, and Lions. And then they win 3 games at the end of the season. Panthers, Vikings, Bears. They sneak into the playoffs, kill the Cowboys, nearly beat the 49ers in the divisional round. If you looked at the 9-game output that season, you would have said this team is toast. So again, there's plenty of time. They could easily turn this around. They have the talent to do it. And it all starts this weekend. This Giants game is a must-win. If there was ever a must-win, it's this game. They cannot lose this game. And if they do, especially if they leave that game losing in a dramatic fashion, I'll be the first one to come on here and say, yep, this is not a playoff team. This is not a Super Bowl team. Now, does that mean if they lose this game that they're automatically out? No, but you got 4 losses, and you really can't get more than 5 or 6. Otherwise, you're done. And the meat of their schedule comes up quick. It's Vikings, Lions, Bears, Ravens, Broncos are still on the schedule. Like, this is a tough stretch. So, anyway, appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully I provided a little bit of therapy here. Didn't mean to get too heated, but it is what it is after a loss like that. Massively appreciate you guys listening. I will be back with a preview episode probably on Friday or Saturday this week, depending on, it'll probably be a little bit of a shorter episode, previewing the Giants-Packers game this weekend. In the meantime, guys, I appreciate you listening. Go Pack, go.